Wow. Wow. Hello and welcome to the Agatebay YouTube channel. I'm Joshua, the owner of Agatebay, and today I have something very interesting that I've never done before. I have Mexican agates from different localities with me today that I want to cut together with you. I have one crazy lace agate, which has beautiful full banding, which is actually pretty rare for crazy lace, but I would say the colors are kind of typical. So I made sure to also pick some pieces that are somewhat typical for the location, but also in a relatively high quality. Just so you get a little bit better idea of what the rough stones from the different localities can look like, especially in the area of Agua Nueva, Coyamito, Laguna, and El Sueco, which are just pretty much like one elongated mountain range where these are found. So these are really just miles apart from each other, while the Purple Passion agate location is a little further away near the town of Colonia Lebaron, and then the Crazy Lace agates, which are also from a little further out. But yeah, let's have a look at the individual rough stones. Yeah, let's cut all of these and then pick a favorite in the end and see who's going to win this battle. First, we're going to cut the Crazy Lace agate, and this is a pretty unique piece for its shape. Usually the Crazy Lace specimens are formed in kind of a seam type. Just give me a second. I have an entire box of Crazy Lace agates here where I can just show you a little bit better. So it's usually just a kind of a seam which forms in one layer. But having pieces with a full round banding is actually pretty rare, just to the occasion that these regularly form as a seam type of agate. So this only happens when a seam is coming to the end and the top and the bottom part are closing down on each other. This piece is showing beautiful banding right here, a little bit of pink. Other than that, most of the colors you will find typically in Crazy Lace are like a white and grayish combination. So having a lot of color is definitely on the more rare side of things. Here on the back side, you can see there's a ton of quartz, but also a couple little agate centers sprinkled here and there. So I assume the agate will actually continue to go all the way through the specimen. So I have to cut it somewhere in between this large window and this large window in front here. Next thing I'm doing is scouting out for fractures, and I see there's a big fracture running here and another one that's kind of running up to this point. I'm also scouting for how far the windows are extending back. So this window starts from here and goes all the way up to the side. So this was covered and recrystallized, but the window actually continues to this point. So this will be my my reference point on where I have to put the saw blade in. Then there's another small section of a window that continues down here. So I will cut from that reference point over to here and then pretty close to that fracture, because this window actually extends a little further all the way up to here. And I can see there's a little bit of an agate center right there. So I'll try to stay close to that, but not hit the fracture, and then have a cross cut from this fracture and window over to here and here. Oh, wow. That's very nice. Of this piece, only the one half survived. The other one, where it had the fracture that I pointed out from the outside, it just completely fell apart during the cutting process. And I've actually been quite lucky that it didn't like ruin the saw blade by, by smashing it. But these two pieces, I can probably just put a dome polish it or use them for tumbling pieces. But this here is a real nice specimen. It's got the full banding, it's got some beautiful parallax, and the combination with this pinkish red with the white is actually a really nice contrast. It has a healed fracture section over here, but this can be stabilized with glue, and then there will be a beautiful specimen available. I actually just saw, although this piece entirely fell apart, I still have some different cutting angles on how I can salvage it. So I can see there's more agate center back here. So I could just cut in between this small window and the area right here and make a diagonal cut in between over to the side where this agate has already been cut. And this way I should be able to get another nice full banded crazy lace agate out of it, just a little bit smaller. And the same with this piece. There's some beautiful, almost like golden color, I would say, here on that side. So I would stay pretty close to that. And it's also just a pretty narrow angle that I can cut through. So I have to get to cut from the middle over here to that side next to where this window is extending. But this way I'm making 5 specimens out of 1. Yeah. Well, at least a little bit of an agate center here. You can see also still fully banded, but it's probably a little too small and a little too fractured for me to put it up on the website, but I think I still gave it the best shot. Oh yeah, that's a nice one. It was definitely worth the idea of the recut. It really opened up, and now I have 2 really beautiful agate centers, again here with some parallax, and then this little extension with this kind of golden yellow color in combination, making like a big chamber and a small chamber. But no, it's actually quite nice, and I think I'll get both of these polished. This is the purple passion agate I picked for today. You can just see the purple color is so deep and so intense, especially in contrast with the little bit of white. I can see there's a brown section here, so I think this is the shared white center where it opens up to a carbonate. So I think it will probably have a somewhat brown center, but I think this can still be a pretty nice piece, just because the purple color is so deep. I can see there's some fractures running through, so I won't be able to avoid all of them. And with this window, this window right here, this big one, this side window, it is very difficult to find an angle on where I can cut it without cutting through a window, but I think I did find it. And that is right in between here, next to this large window and next to this window, so right in between here, then across here, and then in between here on the ridge line, between this big window and the brown window, right across the ridge line right here, and then coming back from the bottom right next to here again. So very difficult cut, but I think I can hopefully manage it. Yeah, this is a proper masterclass of putting the agate in. Such a fragile cut with so little room for errors. So this is the line where I'm going to be cutting through. And then right here next to that peak and ridge line there. Yeah, beautiful purple color. I hit this piece just about as perfect as I could have, really just missing every spot I've been wanting to avoid and just placing it perfectly in between all windows. And this is how it turned out. Just gorgeous, deep purple color in combination with the white in contrast, and then this nice mossy inclusion in the center just adds a little bit of a variety. Unfortunately, it does have a few fractures, but that is really just how most of these purple passion agates naturally are coming by. So I think it's a fair example of how these could be turning out. Now we are all in the same mountain range. The localities of El Sueco, Coyamito, Agua Nueva and Agua Laguna are all in the same mountain range. So we are working our way now from north to south, starting at El Sueco. This is a relatively large sized nodule for the locality. Most of them are less than 2 inches in size, and this is probably a good 3 to 3.5 inches. It doesn't show any windows, only some chalcedony layers, and the outmost layer really just kind of popped off, leaving this kind of peely look on the rough exterior. But that doesn't really matter too much about the agate. So we're just going to cut it right through the middle here where the biggest volume is, to get a nice symmetric picture out of it. Sometimes they can have a little bit of parallax, but typically the bands are wider apart compared to Laguna agates for sure. Oh. Yeah, I would say this is for El Sueco a pretty typical piece. It turns out to have some nice banding, great depth, and great depth is what is very common in these agates, but usually they don't hold a ton of color and usually the banding is also not super fine. So I would say this is probably a pretty representative piece, but of course for my quality standards it's not quite good enough. The color is not there, it's got those couple of fractures, and that is why it is a flyer. Yeah. But when I throw the agates in the trash can, it doesn't really mean that I'm actually throwing them away, because I'm still donating these agates to like lapidary workshops, so they're not like going into a landfill or something. So there is some use for them. We are moving a little further down south to Rancho Coyamito. And this locality is pretty famous for their pseudomorph and perimorph inclusions. Pseudomorph means replacement by a mineral by another one. So in this case, it was aragonite crystals which have been replaced by agate. But in this case, since the pseudomorphs have not been replaced by agate, but were probably a carbonate structure, and then the carbonate eroded again, this is a perimorph because it only leaves the empty spots and not a replacement in this case. But this locality is worldwide, I would say, one of the most famous localities for producing good pseudomorphs and perimorphs. However, this is from the Los Alamos location, which produces this specific type of pseudomorph on the ranch. And now we are just going to go ahead and cut it. So it's a typical piece for the sublocation, but the Coyamito ranch has so many different localities that you actually would have to separate them into different specific localities and not just call them Coyamito agate in general. What I'm going to do is with this one, because it has all the hollow and empty spaces, I will make a cross cut from over here to just a few millimeters left to the ridgeline. So I have a pretty thin piece on the left hand side, then cut right over here where there's a little bit of an agate window showing, and then back right across here. So I have two relatively large halves, but still hopefully a little bit more agate in this area, since this is all the empty perimorph space where there will be a lot of holes in there. Oh, wow. Wow. I think I just cut it about right. It looks a little weird because this half is so much thicker, but also because it has all the perimorphs on this area. There's like a lot of empty space in there, and the fortified agate concentrates more on this area that's further away from the perimorph points. So it looks just incredible. The formation of this piece with the original crystal structures leaving those empty voids is absolutely amazing. The colors are stunning too, with this kind of soft pink and white and a little bit of yellow. So it is a really, really nice piece. The only little bummer is that it has this healed fracture running through the piece, but this is really what you're looking for when cutting those high quality Coyamito pseudomorphs agates. So this is a really, really good example of how they can turn out to be. We are working our way further down south to Rancho Agua Nueva. And here you can see already just extremely nice banded window with exactly the colors you're looking for in Agua Nueva. Also this kind of soft pink or purple together with yellow, and just amazing depth in between of those bands. Topped off by a floater surrounded by crystalline quartz and this cute little druzy within the floater. Despite this big window, it has a pretty big and chunky backside, with the window just extending over here, but the volume of the piece is right above here, so I can cut all the way behind the window. The other option would be to cut in between here with the mossy section, but I'd rather have two a little bit thicker halves instead of one really thin cutoff and then just one thick half. So I will cut right behind here and leave it about 2 inches for the cutoff slice, and then go from here over to the top of the piece, right next to here where this white bump is, and then coming back to right here where the window started. Wow. Wow. That is extremely beautiful. I'm doing a lot of business directly with the miner of this locality, and sometimes he's saving some of the best specimens that he's digging up for me. And this just turned out so good that I could almost not believe it. I mean, this is a classical piece for Agua Nueva, but just in such an extreme beauty that, I mean, usually you have to cut hundreds of pieces to get just a single piece like this. But this is really just exactly what you're looking for. Super nice floater in the center with the crystalline druzy, the clear quartz with the depth surrounding the floater, then those yellow bands, and then some translucency and depth again, just before the kind of creamy pinkish white band appears on the outside. This is really as good as it could have turned out, and just a premium quality Agua Nueva agate. We are the furthest down south of the mountain range now, coming to Ojo Laguna. So this Ojo Laguna area is a dry lake bed, and just to the east of that is the south area of the mountain range, where there's different localities where Laguna agates can be found, such as Conajeras, or which is also known as El Arcoiris, the Alianza claim, San Martin claim. So a lot of different areas where Laguna agates can be found within that area, but they're all worldwide known to produce some of the highest quality agate ever. This is one of the nodules that is currently only showing white on the inside, and I always tend to say when they're only showing white and no other colors, they are mostly just white on the inside. But I have been positively surprised a couple times in the past, so you can be lucky, but I just don't want to put the expectations too high. And this window is unpleasantly annoying right where I would usually cut through. So I have to adjust the cutting angle and probably just tilt it a little to the side. So we'll cut right to the right of the window, then across this bump here, and then next to this window right here, the small one, and then coming back up to where the first window came from. Oh. I did get a split nodule with 3 different chambers. Yeah, I just hit it just about perfectly right next to that window and the other window. And this is what I took out of the saw. You can see 3 different chambers, but the other piece is really what caught me with surprise, because there is a little yellow center hiding in that top left corner. So it's not just a white agate, but I mean, beautiful in any case with the different chambers. It doesn't have any flaws or fractures. So both pretty high quality pieces for a Laguna agate. Got some parallax, of course, like most of these Laguna agates do. And yeah, really beautiful specimen pair right here. You are looking at the entire cutting result of today. Let me know in the comments which generally you think is your most favorite Mexican agate locality. And now we are also just comparing them directly. The Crazy Lace agates are definitely the most affordable material, but you have to dig really deep into those crates or barrels to get some full banded specimen type pieces, since most of it is a seam type of agate, and also it mostly comes in variations of white and gray. So having really colorful pieces is definitely rare for the Crazy Lace agates. Purple Passion agates are just extremely rare, and unfortunately most of the time pretty heavily fractured, but this depth of purple is really just able to be found at the Purple Passion location. I think the Coyamito agate is really representative for how they can be turning out to be. Still a very beautiful piece for the entire design and structures going on. The Agua Nueva agate in this kind of quality is absolutely not typical to be found at this locality. Often these nodules contain a large portion of this kind of greenish turquoise colored moss, and often just don't have this type of banding in colors. So this is a typical piece, but extremely nice in comparison. So for me, this is definitely the winner of the day. But also Laguna agates usually don't disappoint. The only one that we don't have anymore here is the El Sueco agate, because it left us a little bit early. But yeah, I think in general, Laguna agates are probably the best type of agate from Mexico in terms of general quality. Then I would probably rate Agua Nueva and Coyamito agate together with the Purple Passion, and Crazy Lace. You just have to cut a lot to get those specimen type kind of quality pieces. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon again, and that being next week on Friday.